Dear Fox News, when I was a kid, in like first grade, a policing family from Hartford told me that, explained to me how they were differentially criminally foreign influenced. And they sought me out to make this confession. Planned, because they make uses of confession and uses of passions and emotions dishonestly, and where they have been arranging not just evidences before they start doing that, and when they come to that, evidence physical evidence reception racketeering with locations. They've been doing it with fact cheating natures and with people's names and all kinds of natures of sequence shifts. Also, as people interstates, as people also intercities, having colluded with men and women adults since they were kids through strangers. Were instances where there were exceptions, all exceptions to the strangers were also with them, lying about what came for that, and they're having things filmed constantly, and they're attaching what's actually recorded with fabricated audio and video transcripts to replace what's actually recorded, including as wire crime methods, whole predicate acts delivery system methods that the Weathersfield police are involved and were involved with distinctly and non-distinctly. But we're not being allowed to counter how sickly, non-distinctly, or distinctly properly because of how they've been exploiting, how the interbranch our naive quality of fact cheating nature and time treatments and confessed, demonstrated, recorded. They just say this, make it this, and they're putting fake things in databases. And they are maintenance to roles with uses of identities, for example, hundreds of nations at once with shared policing and schooling of our kids. So that is demonstrated, used to pretend to hide. Also, that is used to keep one of the things that keeps people pretending integrity anyway with passions and emotions against who tries to use short words and stay calm when they say everyone's lying, when they say science and no criminal foreign influences were involved with our standards today, and with like the people stacking in New York City, simultaneously across the world. The solution is a human volume science that is native pure. See, that was separated from what it needs to be defended, everyone at once for the same identity of volume, not just our own, not just nature. Our own that is also going to cause positive value natures and progressions, acts, and natures everywhere at once. That's how we know we're using the right invisible but discernible. That's how we know we're using the invisible but discernible right, such as subjects treatments. Say we have the same old crooked subjects treatments and a black representative and some KKK representative with the same old uses of premises, treatments, and identity thefts and fraud styles. Uses of identity ground locations where people are pretending politics. Is that really what's involved with the polarity between black and white and the non-polarity and collusion against an illusion collusion against not just what's Native American, but what is native pure. The only reason that's an increasing distinction is because that breaching method that's why where they put people in different locations to propagate fact cheating nature, blaming other things, others themselves, for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures being demonstrated to humanity because of our loss of its revealed before criminal foreign influence sciences, delusions, raw sciences, victim predator sciences, defended as other, even where and how is true, criminal natures of positive and negative treatments, defending themselves from passions and emotions in theaters offensively, outside of courts, outside of police instances, interactions, outside of uses of words like politics, words slash values like politics slash value progressions. See, this is how we have to, we'll be speaking, because this is how English was revealed, to be taught as an identity of sophistication, as an identity of sophistication that sciences were wrought incapable of affording discerned, while speaking, for example, the predicate act of English, of the law, which is like wire crimes, or like mail crimes. Those are fact, treatment, nature oriented, no, and sequence oriented, and timing oriented. But it's also having to be facilitated by, interstates or an international criminal foreign influence, criminal enterprise. But America's founders were a counter-criminal enterprise, because it was illegal to follow the law of nature. They had crazy laws, and if you didn't follow them, because everyone was a slave. And where people say, oh, but it's worse over here, that was employed. And simultaneously employed was needs for people to do that. Blamed on other things other than themselves, not just blamed on other things, it was defending roles with it through premises treatments, through pretending that people have to, they have black and white representatives recorded, involved, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Black and white generations from Wethersfield, hardly any of them. Confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, recorded, used remotely, involved with offensive evidence racketeering, evidence reception racketeering. Whole bunch of nations at once recorded consciously, maintaining the ones that deal with them, and through the Wethersfield police and through their roles with the Wethersfield library and the schools in Wethersfield and intercities. This is what is actually recorded. They've been telling people to make conspiracy theories, to tell other people, say that other people have been making conspiracy theories, or to make allegations about us outside of courts, and as their rules fabricated, letting police forms and courts fabricate audio and video for them, and let them attach us to fake words and locations, because they have even employed the sense and sensibilities of strangers to me, that they have the names involved with, and the people involved with the uses of confessions to little kids about the roles with the overt criminal enterprises / the insidious that are timed with them, with locations on and off campuses, with connected statements and confessions. And what is not said, but demonstrated consciously. They also have this, so Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed roles with a whole bunch of natures of federal criminals proven since before that was proven, and with former director of the FBI and his co-defendants, also as proven pension thieves and stuff like that, where some of the students from Wethersfield and from Rocky Hill who went to Trinity College were involved with predicate acts growing up and wrongdoing and on and off Trinity College's campus, and natures of identity thefts and frauds that are also coupled by their roles with falsified police reports and courts and police forms and political families recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, used remotely. Then there were like a next year or 2 years later, a Debbie Gold came up to me and she was like wanting others to see, I don't know the names of them, and she was like all livid, mad, and I was like a little kid, and they knew that she's in another class, so they take people that are in your same grade, same class, from other classrooms, and they pretend passions and emotions, and they speak things, and it doesn't make sense because they're not in your class. You don't know anything, and even the people in your class, you're minding your own business, but they're putting people in fake words with each other in classes, so they could prevent people from talking through time. They confessed and demonstrated, recorded women and men through time who are judges and who are prosecutors and who are people involved with fire departments and who people who are involved with medical campuses and with people who are involved with EMS campuses and with people who are involved with computers, trainings of kids growing up. There's a guy who grabbed my wrist one time, also involved with sequence shifts and predicate acts, falsified police reports, identity thefts, and frauds. Like a big guy. I believe he was I don't know if he was if I had some kind of social studies class or computers class, but it was like nonsense. He didn't teach us anything. And that was when I was in 8th grade. We were in computers that weren't, like personal computers weren't around like that. It was the dawning of the age. And so they have the entry to the sciences. He's also involved with a girl that he non-verbally looked over at her. And that's the one who was with Eric Oliveri. And herself recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the various natures of federal criminals and FBI and CIA families who have been seeding fake things by coming up to people and making confessions and demonstrations of their roles with federal criminals since before they were caught. And roles with people in all kinds of different natures of cases, uses of depositions to pretend other allusions into records for investigations and investigators to self-value, because also of how remotely used are the lie progressions and the actually recorded value standing as a value/value progression, increasingly value, positive or negative though. Increasingly negative since founding, incapable of defending locations, areas, and states' formal voices, and America from what exploits that through and while exploiting the countries that it comes through, while as our own. Now, what this means is, for example, we have Wethersfield police are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated the people who answer the phones for them through time. A Smith family. They have roles with some people involved with drugs, with doctors in my area, and with some untimely deaths. And they faked conversations with me because these are the people that counter drugs. They work with the triage, Hartford Hospital. They have a Judge Killian involved with a whole bunch of other doctors, and a Leahy family, and Dr. Zeman, and other doctors that are forging names, switching names, speaking fake things into records. They're also delusions raw. They're also involved with all kinds of natures of organized crime with the kids that are off the record, unfathomed, because we're not using what is actually recorded. But it's also how it's recorded, because these are also people involved, again, with remote uses of black families in Wethersfield as the ones intercities involved with the putting them away, putting their arms around them, leaving all kinds of rackets of people worse than criminally incompetent, delusion, and rot that are dealing with the results of what is on and off campuses connected. It's also inter-campuses and intra-campuses. And it's that way between cities because of how Central Connecticut State University and World Trade Center had and has judges preemptively preventing the law by pretending they have the right to defend themselves in court, where and how they're recorded outside of courts and roles with WFSB predicate acts, attaching me and people tied to me and to my family to fake words, fake locations, forcing us to speak as a group because they've been doing this since I was a kid, falsifying police reports, switching officers' names, mixing ones in that weren't even with the location, them coaching people to make overall allegations about things I say. People I never had conversations with. Same people involved with the pattern of coming up to me with statements and confessions as strangers, and then uses of it more and more recorded that they want me to keep my mouth shut about, because they have roles with plainclothes police, with the Los Solitos on Zion Street through time, and with a whole bunch of other countries. Also with police forms and the training of them. All kinds of medical delusions and corruption. all kinds of criminal uses of the fact of how they learn information. Oh, but we have to do this because this is how we evolve. You have some sick people that are involved with all kinds of database illusion stacking and evidence perception racketeering that have been in wire crime methods roles and mail crime methods roles that are simultaneously self-valued, other natures of, abuses of each age of fact treatment nature, uses of elderly homes that are off the record, but they're leading to higher life progressions because of their uses, not by accident, from because of their locations uses. The courts will get, they're backed into and has that mentality of the worst gangs that we see watching YouTube videos or something like that. And they have them on and off campuses inclusion together. They have self-value. The legitimate reasons they have to be associated with gangs, with people employed to keep identity theft, frauds, and as sequence shifts roles, self-value. The sequence shifts, self-value, are what are used by everyone to maintain everyone measured that theater that the news has, where they're pretending it's just only about because they want to be perceived properly, so they don't want to have natural reactions. And when they're pretending natural reactions, they're leaving out and hiding how their fake reactions rules with where and how they prevent mandated law while simultaneously pretending about honest evidence perception. Also because of how on and off the locations right next to the media locations. And as their location, the locations are involved as victims, originally instilled, and they knew would be increasingly victim-predator reactions, and increasingly styles of premises treatments, names treatments, quality of fact treatment nature, time treatments, that are like, called WFSB, they're like chickens with their head cut off. And they replace what's actually recorded audio and video with fabricated audio and video to hide their wire crimes. Then they've been hiding it by using other stories and their roles with other locations, even stories set up for that, and their roles with campuses, with narratives tied to the intelligence community, and and interbranch and the overt criminal enterprises and all that, where it's juxtaposed together through time. There's a Fred Grisey and others that said they acted so they could pretend to record fake things to counter what I caught Wethersfield police in one years ago, involved with predicate acts in my health class, with private school kids, involved with the private school kids. Per them, an O'Brien family that's also involved with a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield, involved with New Britain Superior Court and New Britain Central Connecticut State University, and on and off Paul Main and Fort Drive, and on and off the other side of the college, the northern side, on and off the western side, on and off the eastern side. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously through time, because of how they've been exploiting how we are a value/value progression, and where and how they have criminally foreign influenced uses of little boys and girls that were, since before they were in college, they were dealing with people with the sciences at Central Connecticut State University and at Trinity College and at UConn. Or I don't know about Trinity College, or I guess at Trinity College too, but at UConn. And they're involved with overt criminal enterprises, plural, and the interbranch fabricating audio and video of timed wire crime roles with the illusions, uses of them, timed identity thefts and frauds roles, uses of them, uses of fire departments roles with this, uses of how the media plays softball together, different networks that are preventing mandated law. and then they lie about, they pretend you're attacking them after they attacked you for sequence shifts, and to exploit the interbranch, the other people, and the Britain Spirit Corps forges and switches names. And while they're fabricating fake audio and video and allowing that facilitated per grouped also, their roles confessed and recorded with falsified police reports and with stacking them multi-front fake, switching officers' names, stacking multiple fake things into databases. Their roles doing that to force sexual, medical, and judicial abuses multi-front and news media roles with a principal child offender, and others with sexual and medical and judicial roles with identity thefts and frauds, lies from kids, also with doctors that live next to the schools and ones with kids in the school that also attach me to fake conversations with themselves, where and how they are involved with in continuing nature of uses of juxtaposed natures of organized crime on my street that are fact-cheating nature oriented, falsified police reports roles, slander roles, media roles with mayors' families and with their lawyers, criminally foreign influence. They have the lawyers. They have a Trantolo and Trantolo also involved with the judges and prosecutors criminally using, establishing evidence fake with online and through with the news media and video and with print journalism. They're covering lie progressions from all that has been involved with remote uses of political families and of judicial families and of executive families and of the people typed to databases. Simultaneously, it is overt criminal enterprises. Simultaneously, it is people involved with body dumping spots and the spots next to them, not wanting to be part of that. But the reason how they got involved with that is because it's all got ties to the evidence reception racketeering and their roles with, like, there's a Justin Kovinskis and others involved with the 3 spots at the end of the Brome Turnpike and all along from Church Street and Old Weathersfield and onto Main Street, and then all the way up from there, Wells Road, all the way through cities to Central Connecticut State University. They're involved with identity thefts, frauds, falsified police reports. They're involved with remote uses of campuses where through intercities through time, where they cover up lie progressions from their roles with a bunch of natures of multi-front uses of predicate acts roles. They stack illusions. They stacked and had stacked into databases, knowingly and or unknowingly. But that's all that's tied to their confessions and demonstrations and sequence, timing of it and uses of the identity of the ground, locations. Because this is what was set up, the little pathology of homes and relative to the street in our value/value progression, where we are. Since before cars, this was what was set up, the scale of infrastructure, the scale of means to it. And no one could fathom other, because it was complete possession over what was native pure, which is the ancient Campus Marcius. And it is most probable, if you take account of all the recorded self-value criminally foreign influence database, naive evidence reception racketeering, and identity reception racketeering roles, and lie progression cover methods using databases. Using styles of logic that can't defend themselves on paper unless it's too late. So they have to self-value. Then they need to hide. They have to self-value too. Needs to hide from the people, they put in jail. From the people that they do rude things that make them say it's racism. These are other police forms. These are courts judges. These are their family members needing to hide lie progressions as victims by worse. They know that. But they also know differentially, constantly, they are increasingly the same exact thing. They are complete remote possession. That's why they can't stand it, the protraction of the revelations, capable of being, if you allow free speech, mandated law. And while we're discussing really why and how someone could pretend to believe that science legitimately spoke for and cares for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, especially in our most overtly forsaken, self-valued, being and having been tactically forsaken location, identity of the ground locations. All tactically to nature to maintain people syntactically self-valuing value systems, therefore identities, roles, communicating with communications, unfathoming how they were the premises, defenses themselves simultaneously prevent an integrity that needs to speak where there are podiums, where there is YouTube, where there is any means to have a video platform, especially because of how they replace that, because of the mail crime methods and the wire crime methods that the prosecutors and the judges are involved with, and with the prisons with them, and with the medical community, and with the foreign and domestic identities. When they debate details, they're all in collusion with all kinds of natures of drugs and medicines, racketeering and uses of it, because they've been stacking fake things in databases. They've been lying about identity, using all instances that are spoken to them or that come before them legitimately as courts to hide their own personal life progressions, to hide their others, to hide their own criminal incompetence, to hide their own delusions, to hide uses of that. That's all that is capable of. That's what caused witch trials. What they can't afford discerned, especially if they made it up differentially, especially even if they made it up, would cause witch trials. They left out what slavery is, what slavery was in there for. There was a breaching method there, a human fact, cheap nature breaching method, a human identity breaching method, human identity's value/value progression breaching method. Now, if people want to argue this, you're using their terminology. Then you start calling names to people with it. And you have these people, when there's a problem, when people need to raise their voice, and when they don't. They're using both ones to hide their own personal roles with why and how people raise their voice. For example, because they are prevented calmness. I mean, they are presented peaceful means to counter predicate acts. And they're pretending not to understand people because they know that they're involved with the predicate acts. But that's why it's also relevant why and how Afghanistan family sought me out to confess right up front. Rules with sequence shifts with people I don't know the names of, mixed with people I only know are involved, recorded outside of courts, online courts, with falsified police reports, offensive evidence racketeering, with overt criminal enterprises, plural, and with private ones. And people I don't know that just walked by me, some of them, and some of them I wasn't never even around, and they were pretending me to fake location and admitted that, and then said switching things. Like a Joshua Julian, who's also one of the ones involved with the Facebook pages of the schools, with the live progressions, with the roles, with the database racketeering, since before we had the personal computers and everything like that, intercampuses. So Heather Hansen and some other girl said that, and others said that I confessed and recorded also that the gangs are the overt criminal enterprises. They're also involved with the online policing and the natures of identities of people, how they express their identities. They recorded have that all, those are breached. There are opinions that are preventing. It's all right if people want to have opinions, but they make them when people say simple things like people are switching names and forging names, preventing, falsifying police reports. They said people say, call the police, and they'll say it like, so you call the police. they replace what's actually recorded when you have that conversation with fabricated audio and video. This is also where you have to deal with the other police forums and how they have other countries years ago that had involvements with sequence shifts, and then with the World Trade Center attack and the responses to it. One of the things that, and these are also people involved with the Leahy family and with Korean families and Taekwondo places, and involved with the judges and their family members, and with the Wethersfield police chiefs through time, and with the houses in my area that the Wethersfield police brought, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, forced to rolls with them, with one of the houses, and with another house, sickly, distinctly, not one of the other houses used to answer the phones for the police with them. So them and a whole bunch of people tied to them, I don't know. Once in a while, once when I was a kid, they tried to make an exception. Then there was an overall exception from a softball team. Or not, what is it? T-ball. In other words. But this was all relative to what they've been stacking predicate acts into databases and pretending not to understand people. And those are people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield schools and with the courts that have been coaching with and using their kids, also with doctors, on campus, off campus, foreign and domestic, also involved with the fire departments, also Russians, involved with confessions and demonstrations, recorded threats, fake conversations with me with this Leahy family and with this O'Brien family. They have uses of the corners, and with the Peruta family, with uses of the corners on Highcrest Street. And they also said, Wethersfield police said that there's a I don't know where they live. There's a Spada family. There are multiple Spada families that intercities through time recorded, confessed, and demonstrated used to have roles with identity thefts and frauds and predicate acts of people in my town, but as people I believe that lived in other cities. But in other words, now they said that they were involved with the rest of the people on the child abuse registry that also had this pattern of roles with identity thefts and frauds and predicate acts and wrongdoing roles with people tied to the Wethersfield police and to campuses, database predicate acts, and roles with those illusions as actually what is recorded, which is also recorded uses of locations next to locations for identity thefts, fraud, sequence shifts, methods where they have people who call the police, even when they're telling the truth, used for criminal foreign influences, like a Yagman family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated as a family. They have roles with calling the police, and the police forms intercities, like two Mendez police on and off Fox Connecticut News, involved with predicate acts with them, and with other news agencies, and people speaking through others forced. And then they cover their life progressions by attaching us to fake words and locations with themselves, by pretending passions and emotions and weight in relationship to what we say, but leaving out their roles with the sequence shifts because tied to other natures of organized crime and names, including the judges. They don't have rights to be using our locations. They don't have rights to have roles spreading lies with child abusers, as was proven and is further recorded. And so they also lied about and hid from Wethersfield parents about how the principal called and left a whole bunch of messages. And I called each one back individually because there was all kinds of confessions and statements and lies from others told to him and confessions from him in those separate phone conversations. Now, these are also people involved with it, recorded, confessed, demonstrated from others, involved having, since I was a kid, faking things at the databases with federal criminals and police forms since before they were caught, together with corruption. But also relevant to how they have all these other countries' identities, having had roles with instances years ago where that were sequence shifts oriented and confessed and demonstrated, recorded, all with ties back to people in my grammar school class that were using them for life progressions, and with people with private schools that are also simultaneously making it so people that investigators that are criminally foreign influenced have the means to keep pretending they don't realize things while they're fabricating audio and video, using weapons worse than guns as their roles with the gun problems. And the way they do it is through all the motivations, nature, needs, interest because they are using the premises treatments. They have complete possession of both parties' treatments. Both parties counters to each other. Criminally foreign influence, delusion is wrought, self-value that way, taught to blame it on other things other than themselves. The news media recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they're involved with the bar, criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought with theories regarding race and regarding their roles with drugs and medicines crimes, and with research, evidence perception, their roles with chemicals and poisons crimes too, through the kids, timed, including with a fountain. There's something chemical about what they're putting, like they're giving people like germs and things like that. And that woman was, we have some sick people involved with Hartford Hospital and with other hospitals, because they have their police forms also involved with overt criminal enterprises and with killers and with people next to the body dumping spots because of the involvement of the remote uses of the investigators, because of the involvement of the campuses that train them, that also have involvements with kids from a whole bunch of other countries, and our country's kids over there, like Central Connecticut State University. So there are kids that made confessions to me in high school about a whole bunch of different things, and they met a couple of them met my father once, and then they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They used that to sequence shift and to pretend that all the confessions they made to me after that had anything to do with my father. In fact, they know it was recorded, even the courts, because the courts were fabricating fake things with those people that were involved with overt criminal enterprises when I was in middle school, sickly distinctly from how they were involved with it when I was in grammar school, sickly distinctly from when I was involved with it when I was in high school. And all I want to do is speak about what is positive. And they have people I never had anything to do with in the background calling police on me and fabricating audio and video, making confessions to me about all kinds of things that are connected intercities through time. I've been asking Trinity College since before. I've been asking people from Central Connecticut State University, Trinity College, if you could, confessing, demonstrating, recorded. My grammar school kids did good. In other words, they put me in fake conversations with people from off campuses, and they had the people on campuses forge and switch names at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut State University, with people that are involved with houses on Zion Street, with overt criminal enterprises, actually, and as undercover people, also actually with predicate acts in cases of various natures, and as roles with mayors and with their kids, with drugs and medicines crimes, including where those roles where they're stacking sequence shifts and fake behavior relationships to other people, setting up truths to use as lies for that, putting lies between truths. And they've been doing that with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and police forms, and military foreign and domestic, and medical foreign and domestic, on and off Connecticut State for a Whiting forensics place. That is also one of the ones involved with the one house /S. Either one you could take as the one house connected to the others differentially too, which is also evidence. Because in other words, the people who answered the phones for the police, Weathersfield Police through time, all kind of wire crime acts and methods and roles, and with people that confessed and recorded and demonstrated it's involved with Washington, D.C. in a number of ways, and with the World Trade Center in a number of ways, and with other interstates locations in a number of ways, and with intercities a number of ways, and where they have the sense and where they have the theater of everybody that's a legitimate theater needing to, okay, well, I don't have control over this. They also have that use of that word control because they've been fabricating conversations with people. And they've been when they hear people telling about it in video and stuff like that, or if they know they're going to say something, they pretend they had a conversation with them, saying the same things but mixing it up and then lying about it with other people. Because we have styles of industries that are still criminally foreign influenced. There are still delusions wrought, offensively preventing mandated law. That's why we have to have injunctive reliefs for what is worse than elections crimes, because both political parties were involved, and they have remote uses of the sense and sensibilities of every American, including Barack Obama, in relationship to black and white treatments. That's our founding black father, our pupil, where we are the pupil. But in other words, I'm right about this. No one's discerning the predicate acts delivery system method. Everyone's blaming that on other things other than themselves. And simultaneously, increasingly, to defend that logic, they have to value premises treatments that are delusions, raw, criminally foreign influence. They have to value sequence shifts. They have to value qualities of fact treatment nature that can't defend us, and from what exploits that and uses remotely those qualities of interbranch instances, identities of relationships to people that are a quality fake theater, criminally legalized criminal insidious nature, increasingly criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments. They could have opinions other, but have them follow mandated law. Pick one name and sequence, get them onto paper now. I've been asking since before the World Trade Center attack. More and more names have been attaching me to fake words and locations, and they've been stacking confessions. The interbranch use their little kids. They bring up their little kids because they're little cowards, and that's how they play tough, exploiting the judges. You get those judges onto paper now. They have the people with the Hartford courts involved with the deposition of Robert Luskin and with the military families and the people in West Hartford that went with that court. And involved also with the dean's family members lying about me, spreading lies about me. They were influenced to do all kinds of natures of influences over them. I'm not making opinions about that too. Then they pretend it's personal against them because they have the courts involved. Oh, let the courts decide it. Get them on paper with the courts. That's what I'm trying to say. I caught off the courts with crimes, with federal criminals before they got caught, with uses of locations together, with uses of their roles with depositions, and with predicate acts in cases of other nature, with the people in it that had things that had nothing to do with that. In other words, those cases and subject treatments had their own thing to do. But those people in those cases were brought up by the people who had fake conversations with me, pretended me to fake medical diagnosis, as the ones with the kids involved with the principal child offender. And they're pretending they had conversations with me because they're in the background with the judges and prosecutors involved with them, and state's attorneys forging and switching names, putting more fake things in the databases. Same people rules were doing it with kids when I was in middle school. They don't even know, made all those confessions to me and threats to my neighbor about how the mafia was going to come after his family and how they, So we would hear that a few times. Then they pretended to know me. They lied about what that was. They lied about their confessions. They lied about what they used Heather Hansen for, and what she used them for, and their families, her brothers and her father and mother and their neighbors, involved with drugs and medicines crimes with kids, including doctors with them, foreign and domestic. These are people with police forms all along Church Street in Old Wethersfield, around the corner, right where George Washington had to come to leave slavery in Wethersfield, but to secure the French general's help, because they were still extorted and having to hide their roles with the American Revolution. That's the answer when someone says, "Oh, George Washington owned slaves." That's because you say that, and no one says anything because everyone came through tactically, criminally foreign influence sciences and identities of schools and uses of them and of their systems as our systems, all increasingly not tactically native, all increasingly tactically not native pure. The republic for which we stand was revealed using alpha and omega and yin yang simultaneously. For example, yin yang is what one identity of volume will only stay onto itself, increasingly positive, increasingly. It is an only increasing identity of volume. So yin yang does not change. They only increase simultaneously, perfectly. Now Earth has a simultaneously distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to that one identity of volume that is only perfectly going to stay perfect value progression per its system, though, native pure. And so alpha and omega is also a part of this education. Alpha and omega are where and how. The Trinity is also a part of this conversation. The 5 pillars of Islam are also better than just architectural, anthropology, archaeological evidences. They are correlation / discorrelation tools. Fools. With campus name. It stole. Boxing. The campus the sciences whole share an identity. So it's more probable that boxing, the martial arts, and wrestling were revealed in relative to where and how there were revelations gained in self-value by the original natures of internations facilitated and caused criminal insidiousness nature. But it wasn't of a nature of the nature /s that criminal insidiousness that those natures are now. And when I say nature, I mean identities of positive and negative treatments simultaneously. And in criminal insidiousness natures make treatments of positive. They use truths and use positive things for lies. They use charities. They use the locations for syntax. Where and how everyone's a victim. Everyone's also been blaming the real causes of that on other things, and of increasingly nature's increasingly as that perfection demonstrating the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, of statistics, of uses of the gathering of them, of the criminal foreign influences, of the uses of the using them for videos, for making opinions, convictions, for defenses of that, which are simultaneously defenses of premises treatments, quality of fact treatment nature treatments, quality of positive and negative treatments, stayed insidious. This is why, rather than following the revelations that come from understanding how before cars they could build safer and better homes in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and suburbs from here to Russia. All exceptions, exception nature, and then demonstration of the same thing, a semi-ancient trap that knew how to build what would cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and how they could sustain that in a way. They could sustain roles with counters to it that are in collusion with and as criminal insidious natures of positive and negative treatments. That will be now all through a whole bunch of other motivations, natures, needs, interests. So this is another way. This is more probably what the devil is about and where we learn about religions through the nature of religions. We learn about the law through the nature of the law not just through the law. See, what is written by the book, if you are really honest, use correlation/discorrelation and see the value of sequence true. And logic tells you that what is written in the book is criminally foreign influenced. And they're leaving out exceptions. And decisions were written that left out exception nature. Great evil was leveraged the same way you see the logic of the overt criminal enterprises when they group them. And the logic of the black and white people that come together every once in a while, and through the news networks, and they talk with their differences. Those are projected fake sides of correlation nature. Those are roles with the complete possession of both parties because they have both, because of the nature of how corrupt and used remotely identities of the law, of the agencies, of their jobs. Oh, this is where the time treatment comes. This is where the information comes from. This is how data reception works. And I ask this person here, and it's so obvious. This is better than radar. We could see right through the walls of government. Fake. CT must break. So then they pretend, then you say something like that, they pretend it's personal. So, and then they pretend, oh, well, the person has no personality. Meanwhile, if you examine anything they say, then you have to pick one person, though. You have to pick one. So I'm picking the mayor because that's the person who sought me out in the past, and that's all. This is which is recorded, confessed, demonstrated a whole bunch of ways relative to the people playing the wire crime methods, and mail crime methods, and drugs and medicines crimes, identity thefts and frauds, and delusions roles on and off the campuses, intercities connected. Because that was used. And they put fake news they attach me and my family to fake news. To fake words. They put fake outcome in cases because they've been having other people in the background lying. They have a whole bunch of people tied to this, to New Britain Superior Court, and people that use my name, that are involved with the intelligence community, that are involved with overt criminal enterprises, actually with predicate acts together, fabricating audio roles with the fabrication of audio and video, stacked into databases interbranch while being and having been stacked into databases on and off campuses, with a whole bunch of stuff off the records and the motivations of it, because of how their volume is being exploited, how they're being exploited as standing criminal and seditious natures. I don't know these people's names too. It's how they have to have us forced to use other people's names because of the games they're playing with the wire crimes. I want a response for the simple sentences I actually had, and through the phone with the Wethersfield police, and with the Wethersfield principal, and the other ones involved. And they have a whole bunch of doctors involved with judges and their family members, intercities, and people associated with them since I was a kid. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed as kids involved fabricating fake sides of their roles with their crimes. I was just present, and with their confessions demonstrated, they had the people in that. They want, in other words, a subject material stealing a speaker box of a guy named Joe that I don't know the name of, but he's also one of the ones recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with confessions and demonstration with the uses of the corners of the streets, and with evidence reception, racketeering, identity thefts and frauds instances, roles, and people on off Trinity College involved with that, and on off Central Connecticut State University. In other words, people that have been attaching me and others on campuses that are filmed 24/7 to faked audio and video, and needed to hide that. So everyone needed to keep, because a whole bunch of other countries. That's why it's necessary to demonstrate how a whole bunch of other countries had roles keeping that the outcome. So they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed how they keep the little kids of each country involved with sequence shifts. There are people from a girl from Afghanistan sought me out of nowhere to kiss me, and I liked it when I was in high school. I'm not complaining about that. I'm complaining about the sequence shifts. I never saw her before. I mean, or if I did, I'd walk, like 1 or 2 times, walk by, right, and then that happened. And the people that she was involved with, like people who were involved with the DACA program, people that were involved intercities with that, interstates with that. People are involved. We use other people's names. Big world, small world. Oh, this person's this one, all that. Even with people here and ask about things through their family members. All that information is used for, they're attaching lies to truths. Because they're covering their life progression. They're covering what their actually recorded natures are, which is criminal and seditious nature. There are all kinds of roles that have been using where and how police forms are quality of fact treatment nature that prevents quality of fact treatment nature. Known legally. So they are told to use the right to lie. Where they don't have the right to lie. But that we don't have that all the officers came through schools that were too sick to make anyone come up with fact treatment nature counters to their tests and all that are not in collusion with them, that are not just indifferent to the real answer /S, which are recorded. They're not easy. They're not hard. They're so simple. They're more simple than any of the answers they have, and is more complicated than any answer they have. Because we are led by those who are actually honest and true. What is simultaneously its identity of value, while it is the order of the finite, the smallest finite details is in demonstration of itself. That identity of truth. See, we have to distinguish that identity of truth and the overall ones too. See, that's correlation. When what is finite, grouped and together, in demonstration of and as the same things. Boxings. One identity of volume is coming to, from, as, with, and for itself. Now, why wouldn't one of the reasons we're supposed to rewrite the beginning, but what came before the first part of the Old Testament. And you only have to read right up to the right part. It says all you have to understand is right up to here in the front of the Old Testament. See, they switched it. They see us one way, it's a sequence shift. They made an Old Testament and they left that part out. One of the reasons they don't explain straightforward this straightforward logic, algebraic consciousness / consciousness algebraic, for example, what really English was revealed to teach. And so, other had to be claimed practical. And to justify that, they had to give them theory. They had to give their names and titles and locations. Glorification. A breaching method that employed both that which hurt people most as a breaching method here. That was enslavement of everyone. Sickly distinctly. To keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. To keep how even greater, only increasing positive, is means available to keep that from being discerned. Because that also discerns. We're in a semi-ancient trap. So each must wrap. And grouped in all at once. Campus is dance with stolen name. Boxings. Feels like game, evolution science. We play by rules. So boxing, martial arts, and wrestling were revealed apart with the education of the campus marcies to teach about the difference, in other words, about boxing, about rules. There's a difference between violence with rules.